Hi class, today we're going to do the Baths of Caracalla, built in 212 AD. Just like the emperors before him, this is his gift to the city of Rome. The baths were free. I'm sure they charged for extras like getting your nails done and your hair done and all that, but the baths themselves were free. We are going to look at first the tepidarium. The word tepid means warm in English. Remember that English comes from Latin. And they went there first to get the surface dirt off of them. And then we're going to make an arch, and we did this in class. We cut so it's even on both sides. We cut it like that. And we lay it on our fold, which is the center of our book. And you can see from the grayish tone here that I have folded it already. And I'll lay my arch on there. And I'm going to just trace around it a little bit. Any kind of drawing you do like this, you want to do very lightly so you can change your mind or alter something. Then we have the next bath, which visually will appear thinner, but it probably isn't. It's the same thickness. We would recognize them as swimming pools. And that is the caldarium, and that it means hot in Latin. And if you are taking Spanish, caliente means hot. Oops, gotta fix that. And then also in English we have the word cauldron, and that means a hot pot of water or something else, could be oil or something. If you read Macbeth, the Shakespearean story, you will have the witches are stirring their caldarium, or their cauldron, which is caliente, it's hot. I don't know what they were stirring, to be honest. Could have been soup for all I know. I know that you can barely see this, but we want to make it thinner. So we have this one here that's thick, this one's medium, and that's one's thin. And we have this in the middle, caldarium, C-A-L-D-A-R-I-U-M. And it could be spelled with a U between the A and the L. Doesn't really matter. Not to me anyway. Frigidarium is the cold water, and that's where we get the idea of refrigerator. Darium. And that, so you went from the tepid or warm water, you worked out, you lifted weights, you ran, they did a lot of things that we still do in PE class. In fact, the whole concept of PE class comes from the Romans. And then they would use olive oil, and I have some little jars that you can trace around, but I'm just going to draw mine here. And this jar, which in their terms is an amphora, would have olive oil beside the pool. So they used that, and that was their soap. They didn't have soap like we have. And when they put the olive oil on their bodies, they used a sturgill, which was a metal piece with a wooden handle. It probably had some kind of leather on it so it wouldn't slip. And they would scrape the olive oil off, and that would also exfoliate. Now, what do you have to have? Well, you have to have the 3 pools labeled. Do you have to do it exactly like this? No. If you can do real perspective and you want to do the pools side by side, you can, but you have to know perspective. So if you don't, I recommend you don't do it that way. In class, I have these little outlines of furniture. If you draw really well, you don't have to use these, but I'm going to show you that this is why we make it out of tag board, so we can trace it really easily. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to put it here, and I'll probably put a pattern on it. So I'm going to put this handle here, and then we can see the sturgill through there, and that's called overlapping, and that's a way to show depth in a picture. And we're also going to put some, I'm going to hand draw them. We're going to put some pillars here, or columns, and you can either use the patterns I have in class, or if you want to do it with a freehand like this, as long as you're fairly comfortable with that and it looks good, go for it. So here, I'm going to move that up a little bit, and I'm just going to make them a pair of Doric columns. Now, if you want to use fluting, this is fluting if you remember, the carving on the side. And in the center out here would be a garden, and I would like a fountain out there. The fountain would have a bowl at the top, and you can just draw that bowl in there, and then put it on a little pedestal, and then it has a catch bowl, and the catch bowl has to be bigger than the fountain bowl because it catches the water and puts it back in. And it would be like a square, and I'll draw it on a separate piece of paper quickly. The whole structure would be a lot like their posh houses, in that there was an opening here that went into a garden, and there'd be all sorts of plants and things, and there'd be a walkway around here, and if there are windows, they opened to look in the garden. But you came in from the street, and there'd be we're not going to draw it, but there'd be a catch pool for water that was open to the sky, so they had fresh water for drinking, because they didn't have water treatment plants. And there wouldn't really be any windows on the street side. And that was to keep their belongings safe. You know, there were people who did nothing but walk around and make sure everything was okay. Now, I don't know that these would be supporting columns. They might be decorative, because you remember how the Romans loved their decorative columns. So there'd be a wall over here, and maybe you would hang up your outer robes here, and you can do like little waves here for yourself so you know what's water and what isn't. You need 2 pieces of furniture, so I am going to finish drawing the other side of this chair real quick. And notice that I've drawn it lightly so I can change things and do all sorts of rearranging of stuff. So that's why I have that overlapping. So I'm going to put stripes on my chair. I'm going to have a cushion on it. This is an upholstered chair. And then we'll put a little table here. If you are not comfortable doing 4-legged tables, and it has to have some thickness here, then you can do one that has a center post and a little round bottom like this. Doesn't matter. Or you can do all 4 legs if you want. And I am going to take the center out of this, and maybe I'll put a pattern along here so that you can see that the table is round. And I'll erase this because I don't want it to be glass. They would not have glass that big. And they would often drink out of goblets, is what we would call them. They were like this. And they drank a lot of wine, and they probably cooked with that catch pool in the entryway. You would go here to eat. You would listen to music. It was a lot like we think of as a shopping mall, because it would have all sorts of things here. Now, I'm going to put a column here on this side, and I think I'm going to make it ionic. Have it come down to here, and this probably does support an interior wall, and we'll just have it a round piece here. And if you are thinking about what we did in class, if you were looking at it and you're just kind of looking at this one and thinking, oh, this looks different. Yeah, I'm not a Xerox machine. I make everything different each time. Okay, so if this pull ends here, then we've got to put an angled line here. And just like we did on the Domus Aurea, you want to put a line along here and put a pattern on that, because you don't want people who don't see well, and there always will be people who do not see well, falling into the water. And you can be as creative as you want with that. If you want to make it just stripes, you can. And if you're going to do this one, I would make sure that they were different colors so people didn't get confused. You don't want people who don't see well falling into the water. I don't care how amusing you might think it is. It's not amusing to them. And we'll put one right above it. And I'm not going to draw through my amphora here. We're going to go around it. And you can put a pattern here and then one around here. Notice that I've put an oblique angle on each side. That's really, really basic perspective. So things are thinner as they go away from you, and they also, if you saw the edge of the pool, it's an oblique angle. So I'm just going to hand draw that one. And you can straighten all these lines out after you've decided exactly what's going to happen here. Outside this way you can put some plants, and if you want to have an arch on the other side for maybe a workout area or some place that they go to eat. Another piece of furniture you might put in is what we would call a chaise lounge. If you remember from what I've taught in class, the chaise lounges kind of thing was where people laid down to eat. They actually sort of stretched out to eat. Now this back leg would be slightly longer or shorter than the longer front leg. And that's, again, perspective. And you can, they had an armrest only on one side, which I thought was kind of interesting. And they often would, couples would lay down together, sort of eating and cuddling. So we have a chaise lounge here. I would like you to get creative and put patterns. They were very decorative. They had frescoes. Fresco means fresh. Paintings on wet plaster everywhere. And if you look at Google Classroom, you will see that I have also put in a sample that's completely colored with people in it. Do you have to draw people? No. But I spent all those years in college drawing people, so I like to draw people. You don't have to draw people. And I would probably have things hanging on the wall like this, just their robes from when they were getting undressed. The water should be blue and green, I think, to suggest water. So you want to make your edges here other colors that would stand out against the blue and the green of the water. Something like that is pretty much what I want. If you want to put stairs in here, you can. This is why it's 220 points. It's as much as your 5-paragraph essay. I want it to be good. On December 17th, I want it turned in, completely colored, just like the sample. So each day I will walk around and look at what you've got so far and make suggestions, but this whole page has to be colored. You have to know what a sturgill is. S-T-I-R-G-I-L. And an amphora, and I'm not going to write amphora on there. I'll write it in class on the board. But you need to be able to do that. So I went up about 1.5 to 2 inches here, and then this one has to be half that, so it's 3/4 of an inch, and this one is 1/4 inch. And I can write that right here for you. 3/4 inch, 1.5 to 2 inches. And this is 1/4 of an inch. Hopefully you can work with me in class on this, but if you are quarantined at home, you can always send it to my email, and I'll critique it and give you suggestions and help you out. And that's all we have today for how to draw a Roman bath Caracallas. Thank you.